you guys back to the continuing part 2 of the myth of whiteness, part number 16, intelligence. And I want to thank you guys for continuing on with the truth. I know the video is long, is because of the sensitivity of the subject matter that we're addressing. So that's why it's been this long. And I might be speaking a little bit slow. Let's say I'll be speaking a little bit more faster once the video picks up from where we stopped on the part 1. But I also want to let you subscribers know, and all the good people out there who are so much interested in truth, that the great grandsons of Genghis Khan, who live in the Vatican and run our world from there, who call themselves white, which is actually a description of a lack of melanin from the Latin word albus, have heaped so much deception on the world. There was a lot of evil happening in this world prior to the sons of Genghis Khan running it. But where evil was won, they've actually made it a million times worse. And one of the things they've done in succeeding in confusing a lot of people about the subject of melanin, which is actually carbon, is the fact that they've set up a lot of black stooges, people, to teach about melanin, because they know that only black people will be interested in the subject of melanin, because they want to keep it as confusing as possible, so that by the time people start unraveling this deception, the lies would have sunken so deep that that understanding wouldn't be there anymore. Because one of the basic things that they've confused a lot of people about is the fact that they want you to always think about that melanin is only solely responsible for our pigment. But they'll never ever let you know that even how we produce melanin, that the sunlight helps you to produce more melanin from the food that you eat. Does it make sense? Because all food is carbon-based melanin. So the reason why black people are able to digest and produce more melanin is because they have the genetics for it. They don't have any albinism, so they are able to produce more melanin. So when you stay out in the sun, you're going to produce more of it inside your body, not just what you see on your skin. So it's very, very important that people start taking the sun a little bit more seriously. The sun is there for you. It helps you. It makes you stronger. So that's what I want you guys to take away from this. But I'll leave you now on to continue listening to the myth of whiteness, part number 16, part 2, the continuing part of it. So let's go. So estrogen is never the problem with women because that's what makes you a woman. The reason why black women are naturally different from anybody else who doesn't have woolly hair like them, it's because, first of all, um, if everything goes according to plan, that means, for example, the mom and the father stayed out in the sun long enough. That means when the sperm and the eggs meet, the skin of the black lady is going to be black. All right. If the mom, after she's gotten pregnant, stays out in the sun long enough, all right, she's going to have a perfect balance, especially with the nutrition that she has, a perfect balance of the estrogen and the testosterone in the female body. Because all women have estrogen, but what makes the black woman different is that she has more testosterone, so she has more muscle mass and less fat. So that's why a black women rather are the only women in the world who have a butt. I'm not talking about looking at someone's butt from the side, because there are so many illusions that you can put on that can make somebody who has straight hair to have a butt. The first illusion is that with any if anybody that's not black with woolly hair wants to have a butt, the person has to have a lot of body fat. But the butt is not made of body fat. So that's why, for example, if anybody who's an albino, anybody that has straight hair, has a butt, the leaner she gets, the butt disappears because it was fat and not muscle. Black women have higher testosterone levels in their body, so they have more muscle mass. So that's why a black woman can be lean with a butt. All right? Lean with the butt. With anybody else, it's not possible. They have to have more body fat to have a butt. I'm not talking about like illusions of standing by the side and you think that you have a butt, because every woman is going to have a butt from the side because the pelvis is tilted forward. All right? So from the side, you might have that 2D effect, and from the front, but when you go behind, it's flat. It's only women, black women, who have a round butt behind because it's muscle mass. It's not fat. They can be lean with a butt. So we're not talking about illusions of wearing like tight yoga pants, tight jeans, wearing high heels, standing in such a way that that you can take a picture from a 3/4 view that makes you look like you have a butt, or wearing high heels and walking in a manner, an illusion that the hips swing in a way that gives the illusion that there is a butt. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a real butt. It's only black women who can have that. If anybody else that's not black with woolly hair wants to have a butt, they're going to have more body fat. They are naturally fatter with the body fat they have. So that's why, for example, with albino women who are trying to gain a butt, they always get in the gym to do glute exercises to build the muscle mass. But it's not going to work because they don't have the genetics for it. They don't have the testosterone levels, which are higher in black women because they have more muscle mass. And let me just show you that what I'm talking about with the black women having more muscle mass because of the testosterone levels that they have. Before I do that, I just wanted to read something in here. I don't remember if I read it. It's still from this same website. You could pause the video, copy out the link, and go read it. It says here that melatonin levels were found to be positively associated with increased testosterone. Melatonin, which is melanin, is the same thing. It's just that they call it differently because they're trying to make a lot of people believe that melatonin is responsible for your sleep patterns, when that's not the case. It's necessary. Melatonin is what your pineal gland releases into your body that affects all your hormones and physiological processes every single day and night. That's what you need to understand. So melatonin levels here were found to be positively associated with increased testosterone. That means the more melatonin you have, or melanin in your body you have, the more testosterone you have.
Let me go read what I wanted to show you earlier before. I'm reading from this website, which we've used a lot on the Myth of Whiteness series. You can always pause the video, copy out the link, and go read. It says here, the black females had greater skeletal muscle mass in the upper, lower, and combined extremities. When total skeletal muscle mass was combined with total body bone mass to provide an estimate of musculoskeletal mass, black females had 14.7% higher value than white. White here is talking about anybody that has straight hair, females. So the reason why black women are naturally curvier is one, they have more estrogen. If everything goes according to plan, that means, so for example, the best way I can put it is this. If you notice, black women from the so-called, in quote, ghettos in America have a bigger butt and they're more leaner. Why is that the case? Because the pregnant mothers who are poor, or considered poor rather, are always walking up and down. That means they are spending much more time in the sun. So the fetus, with the nutrition that they are getting, is getting more sunlight and getting more melanin activation. So the hormones are properly balanced, the estrogen and the testosterone, causing them to have more muscle mass such that they're not doing anything. They just have a bigger behind and they're leaner. Black women are the only women in the world that have a 3D effect. 3D effect means that from anywhere that you're looking at them, they have a butt. Other women will just have 2D. And if they're in 2D, if they even have a 3D, they're going to be of much more, body weight. They stock up more fat. The leaner they get, all right, the butt disappears because they don't have the genetics for it, neither the testosterone or the muscle mass, because the testosterone is dependent, the muscle mass rather, sorry, is dependent on the testosterone. So black women are built that way. And secondly, you have to also remember that albinism causes the torsos of anybody with straight hair to be longer. It causes the torso to be longer and the limbs to be shorter. With black women, they don't have any albinism. The torsos are shorter. The limbs are longer, giving them a more curvy figure, added with the fact that they have higher testosterone caused by the higher increased melanin levels that they have inside the body that makes them look that way. So let me go read up something, because it's so funny that that in today's world, black women are frowned upon for their curvy nature. All right, and black men as well, because the more testosterone levels you have, the greater your muscle mass is. So that's why, for example, a black man will walk into, let's say, a gathering, and the whole crowd just stops to stare. Why is that necessarily the case? Because he has too much testosterone. And since we are all human beings made of chemical constituents and electricity, we recognize when a testosterone is in the building, a higher level of testosterone. And that's when, in most cases, because we've been trained to hate our blackness, to hate these high levels of testosterone, so many things are made, or stories are made to make the black people to feel inferior because of their higher testosterone levels that they have. But testosterone is necessary for your life. It's what keeps you strong. It's what that causes the slowing down of the aging process, or the death process, as I should call it, because it's actually death and not aging. Because our great forefathers lived so many years in this earth, they weren't aging, lived young and youthful lives. So it's the death process. The testosterone helps to slow down the death process. And if you notice, black people tend to stay younger. Why do they tend to stay younger? Because they have high increased testosterone. Black people keep producing testosterone till they hit their 50s. With anybody else that has straight hair, their peak testosterone level is in their late 20s, and after that there is a rapid decline. With black people, they still have increased testosterone levels till when they hit 50. And after 50, the decline is very, very slow based on the nutrition and the time they spend in the sun. With anybody else that has straight hair, in their late 20s, the testosterone level is shut off. And after that, it's just on a rapid decline. So that's why black people age slower. But they've made so many stories causing, black people to hate their blackness and the increased testosterone levels which they have. So, for example, a black woman walks inside a building, there is other many different women there, let's say, who have straight hair. She takes the scene. Why? Because there's an increased testosterone and estrogen in the building, which we all recognize. But when that happens, a lot of people become suddenly prejudiced. Prejudiced in the sense that they start acting out their whiteness. They say, "Oh no, my husband doesn't like that. He doesn't like black people," because they are intimidated by the high estrogen and testosterone that's in the building.
If you say you're not intimidated,
Leave your husband around with this black woman for a couple of minutes and see what happens, and go home and see if he truly will not like the black female. So testosterone and estrogen makes black people, all right, to stand out in the crowd. And it causes two things, because since we're made of chemical constituents, if you see somebody that has more estrogen and testosterone than you, two things are going to happen to you. You're either going to be intimidated by what you see because you have more muscle mass, more masculinity, or more femininity standing in front of you, or you're going to like what you see and be attracted to it. So it works in both ways. Oh, sorry, it doesn't work in both ways. It works either way. You're either intimidated, and you start acting like all, albinic people act and say, "Oh no, we don't like that. We are not attracted to that." It's because you're intimidated by the higher level of estrogen and testosterone that you see. So let me read a couple of things just to show you how this has been turned upside down, because first of all, black people have higher levels of testosterone in the body, which causes them to have more muscle mass, causes them to look more masculine, causes them to look more feminine, as black women have higher estrogen levels as well. And see how this has been switched in such a way that it's been brought about to be in a negative manner, because people of straight hair origins don't have this like black people. Let me show you that. So here's the article that I want to read. You could pause the video at any point in time, copy out the link. It says your estrogen levels are higher across the menstrual cycle in African American women compared with Caucasian women. So naturally, black people have higher estrogen levels. And this estrogen levels for females especially causes other women to be intimidated by them. That's just truth. Because once you recognize there's higher estrogen levels, right, that means somebody else is looking more womanly than you. Naturally, the natural thing to do is to be intimidated until you're somebody, except maybe you're somebody who's very secure in their minds. Then you can either, like I said before, love the person or get intimidated. And when you get intimidated, that's when you start acting in a prejudicial manner and you become racist, as they call it, because you're intimidated by the estrogen that you see. So I want black women all around the world to hear this very carefully. If you're in an area, all right, or in a vicinity that you're crowded by a lot of women who are not as curvy as you, you're likely going to have problems. It's not because of you. It's because of the estrogen and testosterone levels that you have that are higher than the other women around you. So that's just one thing I want you to understand. And the same thing with men as well. With a lot of men, the increased testosterone in black males causes other people to get intimidated by them. So when they get intimidated, what happens? They start having problems, and if it's a police or whatever, they start shooting to kill you. So I want you to understand that. And I'll read a portion of all that for you guys to understand soon. But here, what I want to show you from this particular article is because black women naturally have more estrogen levels and higher testosterone, which causes them to be more curvy and have a 3D butt, all right? Other women get intimidated by that, especially women that are not black. So because of this, the albinic elite wanted to put some confidence, some mental confidence into their own women. So they said they did make this whole study and said that the reason for cancer is a fabricated disease, that the reason for cancer in black women is caused by high estrogen levels. So that women of straight hair who don't have as high estrogen levels, as black females, shouldn't feel bad. They'll say, oh, I don't want to have that kind of high estrogen level because it's going to make me have cancer. You see how they twist all these things around so that so many black people feel inferior when they're actually the superior beings with superior genetics? So this is what this article was talking about, and let me just read it to you so you can see what he's talking about. So I'll just read the context first, then I'll read how they twisted the whole thing and said that the high estrogen levels in black women is the reason for cancer. So he says previous studies have suggested that estrogen levels may be higher. It is higher because already it says here that it is higher, higher across. So it is higher in African American women compared with Caucasian women. Caucasian women here means anybody that's not black, anybody that has straight hair. All right, so let me go read further down to show you how they turned this upside down and said it's the reason for cancer. Where is it exactly? It says here, all right, it says several independent lines of evidence have several independent lines of evidence. This is how they make you to be so confused and to ridicule your own self for what you have. They said several independent lines of evidence have suggested that reproductive endocrine dynamics may differ between, it differs, it's not may, it actually differs between African American women and Caucasian women. Epidemiological studies have reported a higher incidence of several estrogen responsive pathologies such as leiomyomas and breast cancer. So what you're saying that the reason for black women having cancer is their high estrogen levels. What makes you a woman is now a problem. Can you see that? Can you see that? So here is the conclusion from that particular website. It says the conclusions. Estradiol is higher in African American women. AAW means African American women compared with Caucasian women across the menstrual cycle. Higher estradiol in the face of similar androstenedione and FSH levels suggest enhanced aromatase activity in African American women. Such differences may contribute to racial disparities in bone mineral density, breast cancer. So being a woman, because you're more womanly than another person that wasn't your fault, by no means of yours that that person is the way they are, is the reason for you having breast cancer. Can you believe that? All right, so let me read something else on what they do with the men, because black men, woolly-haired men, naturally have more testosterone level and have more muscle mass and density. And see how they twist that around and say that that is the reason for black males having prostate cancer, because white men, or albino men as I call it, or anybody with straight hair, doesn't have the natural testosterone levels that black males do. So that's why other men get intimidated by black men for no reason, because a lot of people do not understand that we are chemically made in such a way that we can recognize another chemical in someone else's body. That's how we are. You recognize it, and immediately you start acting a different way. Either you're intimidated or you like the person. But since white men can have this kind of testosterone levels, they have to find a way to make the black males or make them feel better that they don't have it. So they say it causes cancer. So an albino man or anybody with straight hair man can say, nah, I don't want any testosterone like that. I'm going to have cancer. All right, let me show you that. So you could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link right here, and go read up and see it for yourself. It says here, furthermore, Hampton et al. Suggested that black males have a denser muscle mass and a greater total muscle tissue weight than whites. And see how they're going to twist that, because white men can never have it that way, to make them feel that they are the superior beings with having less testosterone. And meanwhile, I mean, it's so crazy how these people, the white albino elites, act. You say testosterone is bad, but you're always talking about testosterone or hormone replacement therapy for other white men, albino men as they should call it. Isn't that crazy? Let's read it apart and see how they twisted this whole story up. You could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link, and go read up on yourself. It says blacks in the United States have the highest prostate cancer rate in the world and nearly twice that of whites in the United States. Now, I want you guys to think about this statement very, very well. Why is it blacks in the United States? Because black people all around the world are the same. The only difference why black males in the United States can have more body fat than Africans or Jamaicans, as they should call it, that means people living in the continent of Africa, is because of sunlight. Because there's not enough, first of all, sunlight in Northern America is at a minimal. And then black people don't get exposed enough. So if you don't get exposed enough, you're not going to be able to activate enough melanin in your body for the physiological processes that you have. So your metabolism is going to be a little bit slower and you gain more fat. With black people in Africa who have constant sunlight and they get exposed enough, they're secreting enough melanin for their physiological processes, so they stay leaner. That is the only difference between black males around the world. So, but why is it that in this statement only, they are focusing only on black males in the United States? Because they're trying to give the albino man or white men or anybody with straight hair men some sort of advantage to the fact that they don't have enough testosterone, and because of that they have less muscle mass, and they say this causes cancer if you have too much testosterone. But at the same time, they're always, all right, suggesting that a lot of albino men all around the world take testosterone to increase their testosterone levels. Isn't that weird and stupid? But let's read it all into it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. It says here, this report gives the results of assays of circulating steroid hormone levels in white and black college students in Los Angeles, California. Mean testosterone levels in blacks were 19% higher than in whites, and free testosterone levels were 21% higher. Did you see that? Blacks have naturally more testosterone. All right? And they say, look at what they now say. After these adjustments were made, blacks had a 15% higher testosterone level and a 13% higher free testosterone level. A 15% difference in circulating testosterone levels could readily explain a twofold difference in prostate cancer risk. So being a man now causes you to have cancer, a fabricated disease. Can you see how twisted things are? So what you have to gain from this is that testosterone and estrogen, the higher you have it, makes you more feminine if you're female and more masculine if you're male. And with black females, because they have higher testosterone levels, they have more muscle mass, which makes them to readily have a butt, a real butt, so that they can stay lean with a butt, and anybody else cannot be that way. All they have is an illusion of either hip swinging, wearing tight jeans or pants, working in high heels, and if they're to have one at all, they're going to have more body fat than the black females. And that's it. So one thing I wanted to let you guys know about, this whole idea in which black women are frowned upon because of how curvy they look, but at the same time the industry is selling Brazilian butt lifts or surgeries that make the female behind to be a lot more bigger. Now in most of those surgeries, what usually happens is a transfer of fat. They transfer fat into the butt. So for example, Kim Kardashian or Khloe Kardashian will go get a Brazilian butt lift and they transfer the fat into the butt. But here's one thing I want to let you guys know. Butt lifts don't last forever because the butt is not, the fat rather that's transferred into the butt is not naturally done. And as you've known by now, what causes a woman to have a butt is not because of the fat, it's because of the muscle mass, which black women naturally have. So if you have a Brazilian butt lift, it's not going to stay that way forever. So that's why, for example, if you've seen Khloe Kardashian or Kim Kardashian have a butt, over time it's gotten smaller and smaller. It doesn't last forever because you do not have the muscle mass for it. So that's one of these fake surgeries that you haven't been told about, that a lot of people go about doing it. So it's better for you to know the truth, so you know how to deal with stuff, than to live a fairy tale life. And let me show you some of the dangers of a Brazilian butt lift, or any butt surgery that you're trying to have to make your butt look like the butt of a black woman. Let me just show you that. So I'm reading from this particular website. You could pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link. It says here, let me see where I should start reading. It says, a recent report in the Miami Herald discussed how at least 6 patients in Miami-Dade County alone have died since 2013 due to fat embolisms after a Brazilian butt lift. A Vatican code of numbers right there, because they're trying to lie of telling you the actual truth, right? That's how the Vatican lies all along. Let's keep reading. It says, according to the news article, the patients died after fat clots entered the bloodstream and traveled to the arteries in the lungs and heart. One of these cases was just in December 2007 when a 40-year-old woman started Brazilian butt lift at a Miami clinic. She died during the procedure. Medical examiners investigating her death described her death was caused after a vein deep in the patient's buttock was injured, causing the fat being injected for the buttock lift to enter the bloodstream. The medical examiner also found fat clots spread throughout the patient's organs, heart, and lungs. See that? It's a very dangerous procedure. And procedures that people are getting because they already despise the black people or black women that they see, but they're trying to be like them. Isn't that weird? Let me show you how long that the Brazilian butt lifts doesn't last forever. Let me read that article to you. So I'm reading from this particular website. You could pause the video at any point in time, copy out the link, and go see for yourself. Now, it says here, before I start reading, it says, how long do Brazilian butt results last? So that's the question, and now the answer says, while fat transfer has been around for quite some time, many things have kept it from being a popular procedure. In particular, trans fat often fail to take to the new area, thus making the procedure largely unsuccessful. However, with new technology, this is how they start lying to you when they start saying new technology. All right? They've told you the truth. Now they put the lie in. It says more physicians and their patients are seeing better results in which trans fat cells are not only surviving, they are thriving. I want you to hear those words. Surviving. You're not supposed to be surviving. That means you're always working against your environment if you're surviving. Let's keep on reading. It says, we've had patients 2 or 3 years out that say the results they get after approximately a month to 6 weeks appears to be fat they are going to get long term. Appears to be. It didn't say it will be. It says appears to be. All right? So a Brazilian butt lift doesn't last forever. Over a period of time, your butt is going to naturally, because it didn't have the muscle mass, it's not still going to, the fat is naturally going to drain out. That's just the way it works. So if you don't have the genetics for it, it's not going to be there. So that's why if you're an albino person, anybody that has straight hair, and you're doing a lot of glute exercises trying to make your butt look firmer like a black woman, it's not going to work. You don't have the genetics for it. It's good that you know the truth. It may have a little bit, but it's not going to be like the way you want it to be, because you don't have the genetics for it. And people are not being told the truth. They are made to suffer all for nothing. So let me go read, how testosterone and estrogen makes black people look the way they are, such that people are either intimidated by it or they fall in love with it. So if you see somebody loving on a black woman and the person is not black, then you can understand that they are attracted to the estrogen, because only black women have the highest estrogen levels in the world. Depending on how curvy, like we said, they are, will be dependent on how the fetus was exposed to sunlight and the nutrition that the mom gets before the child is born, which will make a balance of the testosterone and estrogen levels. And if that's not the case, the black woman might come out looking a little bit masculine. And it's not in all cases, in some cases, and some of this, and that has made a lot of people to think that, because the albinic elite, the white albino elite, have spread lies and saying that black women are unattractive because of this high testosterone levels that they have. And let me read that to you before I read something else. So this article was written by someone, by Satoshi Kanazawa, and it was brought about on the Huffington Post about a couple of years back. A lot of people may not have seen this, but I'm just going to read it to you just for today's, records. You could pause the video, copy out the link. It says, Satoshi said that what accounts for the markedly lower average level of physical attractiveness among black women. It says black women are the less physical attractive women in the world, which is obviously very false, because when you look at the facts in everyday life, I'm telling you, that's not true at all. But let's read it, because this is how the albino elite, and Satoshi Kanazawa here would be an Asian, a typical modern day Asian. So that's why everybody that's white is one and the same. It doesn't matter where you're from. So let's read this. It says here, what accounts for the markedly lower average level of physical attractiveness among black women? So that's a question. I'm not going to read everything, but I'm just going to read from where I want you to start seeing all this nonsense. It says here, black women have lower average level of physical attractiveness net of body mass index. Okay. Nor can the race difference in intelligence and the positive association between intelligence and physical attractiveness account for the race difference in physical attractiveness among women. Black women are still less physical attractive than non-black women net of body mass index and intelligence. Melanin plays a very important role in intelligence, as you're going to find out, because we've been trained in such a manner, in such a way, that when we see something that's far superior than us, we are made to ridicule it. The best way I can put it is this: black athletes, right, are very, very good at what they do. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. If you got into a fight with someone, let's say a physical fight with anybody, all right, and the person won that fight, he beat you fair and square in everything that you were trying to do. He beat you fair and square in whatever fight that you have, maybe a sports or athletic competition or anything else, or maybe just a regular fist fight. The person beat you, all right? He beat you clearly. Would you stand up and say after you lost that fight, I don't think he's intelligent? You just lost the fight, but you think that the person who beat you is not intelligent, right? It takes intelligence to win a fight. So if somebody can beat you fair and square in everything, then that means he's more superior and more intelligent than you are. It's that simple. You're not going to say, oh, he's not intelligent, but he just beat you in a fight. But that's what we're taught to say every day. That's what we're taught to say every day, that black people are far less intelligent and inferior. But they are beating you in every single thing. Everything, not just one thing, everything. All right, let me keep on reading this. It says here, black women, I think, okay, it said black, let me continue. It says, black women are still less physically attractive than non-black women net of BMI and intelligence, body mass index and intelligence. Net of intelligence, black men are significantly more physically attractive than non-black men. So at least he tells you the truth, that black men are naturally more physically attractive than non-black men. Why is that? Because of the high testosterone levels. Now let's keep on reading so you can see where all this comes into, why they say that black women are naturally unattractive. Okay? It says, the only thing I can think of that might potentially explain the lower average level of physical attractiveness among black women is testosterone. Africans on average have higher levels of testosterone than other races. And testosterone, being an androgen male hormone, affects the physical attractiveness of men and women differently. Men with higher levels of testosterone have more masculine features, which is attributed to black males. All right? and are therefore more physically attractive. So that's why a lot of other males find black men intimidating because of the naturally high testosterone levels that they have. They don't need to do anything. They just need to stand there and their presence is felt because testosterone makes you more masculine if you're male. For females with the balance of estrogen, especially in black women, it makes them to be more curvier with a butt, a leaner physique. Let's keep on reading. With bigger hips, I don't know how to explain it. They just look wonderful. Black women. Okay, let me just keep on reading. It says, in contrast, women with higher levels of testosterone also have more masculine features and are therefore less physically attractive, which is not true. So that's what I want to read from the story. And let me cross over now and show you how they let you understand what's happening because of the high estrogen levels and testosterone levels that black males have, as well as black women, that makes them the way they are, and how and what makes other people react the way they do when they see them. Let me read that. So you could pause the video at any point in time, copy out this link, and let me read it to you so you guys can understand what's going on in society, so you can understand why a lot of people are attracted to black males and black women. All right, even though we're all black, but there is a greater attraction when you see, like, anybody that's white or an albino say that they only date black men. It's just because of the high testosterone levels that we're attracted to, but or they're attracted to rather, but because we've been trained in such a way to deny that, so many excuses are brought up from cancer and whatever reasons to make people who don't have as high testosterone as black males to have some sort of superior thinking in their minds, that they're actually superior when they're not. So let me read this to you. It says here, Black Women and Sexual Genetics by Chance Kelsey. It says it says black women produce more estrogen, female hormone, and testosterone, male hormones, than women from other racial groups on this planet. The more hormones the body produces, the more physically stronger, sexually attractive, deeper voice, stronger personality that influences other people around you. The more other people who produce less hormones fear you. So you can see why a lot of people are intimidated by black people, especially when they are not black, because they don't have the higher testosterone levels or estrogen levels that black women and black males have. All right. It says taller in height, stronger bones, stronger teeth, opposite sex finds you more attractive. That's what happens to black males and black females. Let me keep on reading. It says this makes black women very sexy and attractive to men from all racial groups, but due to factors like racism and fear of what members in one's own racial group is going to say, many men from other racial groups generally keep their distance from black women in public unless they are having a sexual relationship with them undercover. The strong personality of black women come from them having more hormones than women of other ethnic groups. Black men produce more testosterone hormones than men from other racial groups, and this is the reason why they are so feared. Black men also have stronger personalities than men from other racial groups. This is all a factor of the melanin in the bodies. All right. Now it goes on to say, let me read one more part before I shut this down. Says the more hormones a man produces, this increases his chance of getting a gut reaction from a woman. The same for women. The more hormones women produce, percent-wise, when men see them, they start having deeper sexual feelings for them and want to be with them. They must be and they want to be with them. There must be a sexual attraction in order for people to date first. So this is the reason, a lot of things that are going on in society. So you can understand what's going on. Is we are made of chemical components and electricity, and we recognize it when we see it. All right. So let me continue reading this before I just shut this particular portion of the video down. It says, but like I said, men from other racial groups hide their deeper feelings for black women because of society teaching them to date their own women. Sexual black men and black women are very compatible with each other because of the high level of hormones they produce. It is hard for men from other racial groups to rival black men sexually. Often women from other racial groups who date black men say that black men are good sexual lovers Just look at how this men keep giving black men their phone numbers. This guy is just talking so much. So that's it. What else should I read here? So I'll just read this last point. So the more hormones, the more masculine the man, and black women have a well-developed hormone estrogen percentage. So this is all that makes sense. But what I want you to get from all this is that melanin is responsible for everything that's happening here. And we want to get to the crux of the matter because we are addressing on this particular video the reasons why black people are of superior intelligence, not just intelligence, wisdom, because they are built for it. They have the genetics for it. So, like I've said before, it's like comparing a Ferrari and a Prius on how it drives. Mark my words now, on how it drives. A Ferrari will always perform better and drive better than a Prius. It's the genetics of how we're built. So you're going to find out that there is no way that an albino scientist could have discovered all that they've discovered in this world, because when we started the video, we started showing you that the reason why white supremacy does succeed is because of black wisdom or intelligence, which has always been the foundation of what this world was built in. And it's still continuing today. It's been subverted by the albino elite in the Vatican, using that wisdom in a subverted way because they work for the devil, and using it in an opposite way. So it's technically impossible for anybody albinic to be of superior intelligence than a black person, because they don't have the genetics for it. The genetics is dependent on how much carbon you have, which is termed melanin in today's society, to confuse us so we don't know what's going on, which one is which. So I'm going to read that particular portion for you to see what melanin does. And since black people produce more melanin, they naturally are superior in intelligence and wisdom, because intelligence is a fraction, is a tiny, minute part of wisdom. So let's get into that. So this particular website here is going to tell you that there's a difference between melanin and melatonin. It's one and the same. Melanin and melatonin is one and the same thing. The reason why they call it melatonin is because they want to confuse us and make us believe that melatonin is just responsible for your sleep cycles. That's wrong. It's not. All of this secretions is done by your pineal gland. So that's why stuff like, you not staying out in the sun affects your pineal gland. You brushing your teeth with fluoride toothpaste affects your pineal gland, and so you cannot secrete enough melanin into your body, because the secretions comes from your pineal gland. After the food has been digested and the melanin has been released, then the brain or the pineal gland makes a point of secreting it to wherever you need, especially under sunlight activation rather. So you could pause the video and copy out this link. I already showed you this link before, but I just want to read some few things so you can understand where we're going. Now, first of all, it says here on this article that I'm reading, it says key differences. The main functions of melanin is not melatonin, it's melanin. The modulation of the synthesis of melanin. See what they're saying there? They're trying to make you confused about the two. They say is the modulation of the synthesis of melanin, because it's melanin. Melatonin is melanin. It synthesizes itself. Okay, so let's keep on reading. Maintaining the sleep-wake cycle and biological rhythms in the body, whereas that of melanin are providing skin color, photoprotection, and involving in hearing. All right, so melanin is involved in your hearing. Now, when we read this, a lot of people are going to misunderstand this. They think it's about maybe hearing somebody speak. But that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about understanding. Hearing has to do with understanding. When you hear something, you can freely understand it. Let me read some other stuff that's going to keep you, so you can understand where we're going here. All right? I'll read some more of it later, but I'm just going to read some from this particular website. It says, melanin can be found in skin, eye, ear, hair, and central nervous system. Melanin is found in your eye, so it also affects your eyesight and how you see things. What does seeing have to do? Visual acuity. All right? Ear, understanding. Hair, central nervous system. So what does the central nervous system do? It makes you to be able to react to impulses, makes you able to understand the difference between which impulses and which one you need and which one you don't need. So that's why black people can dance and move better. Does it make sense? They have enough melanin that makes them to do the things that they do. Discover the trends, discover fashions, understand languages. Does it make sense? Like I asked earlier before, show us one trend that white people have discovered. None. Every trend, every culture, way of doing things, it's all been black folk. Do you now understand what's going on? Okay, let's keep on reading some other part for you to see before I jump into the next segment of what I want to read. I'm going to read this last one, then we'll get into the next one, which is much more scientific in nature. It says here, melanin gives black people advanced mental and physical ability. Melanin refines the nervous system in such a way that messages from the brain reach other areas of the body more rapidly in black people than in others. Can you see that? So if you can't regulate your central nervous system, how can you be intelligent? How can you be full of wisdom? Because intelligence means that you are accruing knowledge. That means you're being taught. Wisdom means that you know what to do without being taught. Nobody told you. When a black person discovers how to dance in a certain way, nobody taught them. It's the melanin in their central nervous system that's working. And if you notice that most people, most black people who are considered to be living in the ghetto are the ones with the most discoveries. Why? Because they're spending so much time under the sun. They don't have money, they don't have no cars, so they walk everywhere and they spend so much time under the sun. And because of that, the sunlight activates so much melanin in their body, in their central nervous system, that they're making discoveries every single day. In their poverty state, they're doing all this. And meanwhile, the rich, albino, white, anybody with straight hair who sit up in mansions are lazy and can't do anything. They're not discovering anything. They're just manipulating those guys in the ghettos who are the guys discovering stuff. So let me keep on reading this before I finish and get into the next one. It says here, melanin is secreted in nighttime hours. These hormones work inversely. See that? It's secreted at nighttime. When you spend so much time under the sun, that activates all the melanin in your body. And when you sleep, it gets released. That's why black people sleep better. Their metabolic rates are slower. They age slowly. With all the hardships that has been heaped upon black people around the world, the least number of suicides is recorded in black communities. But white people or albino, anybody with straight hair who have all the privileges in the world, are suffering from depression and suicidal. Why is that? A lack of melanin, or melatonin as they will put it here. Let me read one more thing before I'll show you with proof what we're talking about here. So this particular website talks about neuromelanin. Now, neuromelanin is the same thing. It's just melanin in the central nervous system. That's all what it is. Melanin in the brain is called whatever they want to call it, like melatonin. Melanin in the skin, they give it whatever name they want, because they all want you to believe that these things are different. So you can stay confused about the fact that, you know, melanin is not something important that you should really worry about. It's trying to give some sort of comfort, especially to people who have straight hair in this world. So let's read this up. You can pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link. This is a critical review of the function of neuromelanin and attempt to provide a unified theory. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to read the stuff that really matters. So I'm going to start reading, and one by one I'll be breaking it down. So it goes on to say here, it is stressed that neuromelanin is not homogeneous, as is commonly accepted, but is made up of different substrate specific black. You hear that? Black. It is black melanin pigments formed by the oxidation of O-diphenols or other oxygenated precursors. Substantia nigra melanin, locus coeruleus melanin, retinal pigmented epithelium or ocular melanin, inner ear melanin, and so on. All this is just telling you that this melanin exists in your brain, all right? Exists in your eyes, retinal, right? And exists in your ears, ocular, inner ear. So that means if you don't have enough melanin in your brain, are you going to be able to think properly? No. If you don't have enough melanin in your ears, are you going to hear and understand properly? No. If you don't have enough melanin in your eyes, are you going to see properly and understand what you're looking at? No. Let's keep on reading. And who has the greatest melanin in their bodies? Who has the greatest melanin? Just ask yourself that question. Is it white or black folk? So that means black folks are going to see better, understand better. They have wisdom. And everybody else that's not black needs to be taught. They need to gather information. Right? And what does the white albino elite do in this world? Gather information. From who? Blacks. And then they put it out and tell you they discovered this, instead of giving the people the credit from where they took it from. Let's keep on reading this. It says here albinism, all right? And everybody who has straight hair is an albino. It says albinism often leads to deafness in animals. So deafness here is not talking about that you can't hear, is understanding your central nervous system coordinating what you're hearing and being able to apply itself to it. Just like a black person can hear music and start knowing how to move. The central nervous system, he heard and he could relate to that music and move accordingly. And somebody white will have to be taught how to do that. This is how you move to that music. Does it make sense now? And yet, these people are supposed to have superior intelligence over black people. People that are being taught. They have to be taught. Okay? Let's keep on reading this. It says here the black. You see the word again, the black. All right? Particle structure, melanin cage, is believed to be fundamental to this process because there is a common bioelectric mechanism. So the electricity, the impulses in your body, it is responsible for that. If you don't have it, you can't coordinate yourself properly. You may think you are, but you can't. Let's keep on reading. You have to be taught. Let's keep on reading this. It says here, it is also proposed checking how ocular melanin, the melanin, right? Ocular, what does ocular mean? Ocular has to do with your eyes, all right? So it's saying that it has been proposed to see how the melanin in your eyes dissipates the excessive absorbed light as heat or as current, meaning as heat or as electricity. This is mind-boggling. So that means when you receive vision, all right, the melanin, the blackness in your eyes has to distinguish how to either see what you're looking at as heat, right? Or as electricity, impulses. Does it make sense now? So your eye is going to look at something. If you don't have enough melanin, it's not going to relay the impulses that you're supposed to understand from what you're seeing. It's either going to dissipate that light as heat. Have you ever been taught that? Does it make sense why black people see better? Okay, let's keep on reading. It says, it has been claimed that inner ear melanin mutes acoustic waves. mutes acoustic waves. It mutes waves that you do not need to hear, and you hear what you're supposed to hear. Does it make sense why black people hear better? They can hear something and know how to relate to it, especially if it's music. Let's keep on reading. It says this paper suggests, because of how that affects the acoustics on what you hear, it says this paper suggests investigating the underlying mechanism and also studying whether this pigment is bioelectrically involved in audiology, in hearing. The melanin is involved in your hearing. Let's keep on reading. And this is the last part for this before I show you proof, physical proof this time around, in somebody very, very important. And stick around for that. It says here, it is suggested the alternative that substantia nigra melanin, that means melanin in your brain, nigra, all right, acts as a semiconductor, transmitting and modulating nervous impulses. Oh my goodness. All right, let's keep on reading. It says, in fact, substantia nigra melanin is absent or significantly scarce in two conditions of life. It's trying to tell you exactly where the problem comes from with the melanin that people who are not black usually have. It's trying to explain that. All right, it says, let me keep on reading. It says, in fact, substantia nigra melanin is absent or significantly scarce in two conditions of life in which the coordination of movement is either inefficient, that is in newborn babies, or strongly compromised, Parkinson. Can you see that? So when you move, all right, okay, it's the melanin that's causing you to do all that movement. And black people move better because they have more of it. They have more nervous impulses, central nervous impulses that coordinate the movement. And people who have straight hair can do it. Can you understand what's going on here? And it's telling you that the points in life in which there is so much decreased melanin that controls this nervous control happens in newborn babies, right? And people in Parkinson's disease. So that means if you're having Parkinson, the melanin in your brain and central nervous system is being destroyed. And what do you think is causing that destruction? Let's just figure that out very simply. So if you have Parkinson's disease, you can know where the problem comes from. It's going to be your food and sunlight. It's that simple. And you can add what they call fluoride to that equation. Does that make sense? So let's cross over now, because we spent all this time to make you understand that it is impossible for anybody with straight hair to be of superior intelligence over black people, because they don't have the genetics. They are not built for it. It's more like comparing somebody who has 2 hands and 2 feet with somebody who has 1 hand and 1 feet. They can never be better than you in athletics, no matter how much they try. That's just the comparison. They don't have the genetics for it. So with that, we're going to cross over to one of the most popular scientists, which I have studied for a very long time, because he's one of those scientists that has influenced the world the way we are today. The guy's name is Nikola Tesla. I'm going to show you some things to make you understand that Nikola Tesla is a fabrication. Nikola Tesla never existed. He's a white albino fabrication because they took, right, the discoveries of a black man and gave it to Nikola Tesla. And meanwhile, we never heard of this black man. Let's go into this story so you guys can see this. Before we get into the story, I just want to read about Nikola Tesla for a while. Now, Nikola Tesla, I didn't know if I said Nicholas Tesla, but his name is Nikola Tesla, right? I just want you guys to remember that. So, Nikola Tesla, as we see here, said he was born on 10th of July 1856 to the 7th of January 1943. Was a Serbian-American inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and florist. Now, Tesla is accredited with discovering what we call the alternating current. And there was a man, I think it was Thomas Edison, who discovered electric currents, right? Now, I want you guys to remember this year right here, 10 July 1856, all right? And died 7 January 1943 at the age of 86 years of age. Now, what I find very, very funny about Nikola Tesla was this, all right? Tesla was hired by Thomas Edison, all right? Let's just read this real quick. He says, born and raised in the Austrian Empire, Tesla received an advanced education in engineering and physics in the 1870s and gained practical experience in the early 1880s, working in telephony and at Continental Edison in the new electric power industry. He migrated to the United States in 1884, where he would become a naturalized citizen. He worked for a short time at the Edison Machine Works in New York City before he struck out on his own. So Thomas Edison hired Tesla, right? That is the story that we hear. There's another man that Thomas Edison hired, but we never hear of him. This man is accredited with filing so many of the patents. Now, I want you to remember this year, all right, in which Nikola Tesla, or the era rather, all right, in which Nikola Tesla existed in the United States. This was an era in which there was no civil rights. Black people were marginalized in the United States during the 1850s until the late or early 1940s, as you can see from this year right here. So let's cross over now and look at someone, all right, who also worked for Thomas Edison, who was responsible for filing so many of the patents. He even worked for, because right here they show you that Nikola Tesla worked in telephony. You see right here? Right? They said he worked in telephony. This guy also worked in telephone with Graham Bell, the guy whom we accredit, or who's credited rather, with discovering the telephone. Let's go read up about this guy, which we've never heard. They all worked for the Thomas Edison company, but we never hear about him because he's black, but we hear about Nikola Tesla. Or Nikola Tesla, I should say. Let's go. So here is a website. You could pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link, right? Now, somebody wrote this. He said, I think the truth is that black historian scholars, people have always speculated that Edison stole the idea from Louis Latimer, or took credit for Latimer's inventions because of the fact that there is not historical data that backs up Edison's interest in or expertise in that particular science before Louis Latimer came on the scene. So it means that Louis Latimer discovered everything of Thomas Edison, and it was never ever heard about all these inventions until Louis Latimer came on the scene. So it was Louis Latimer and not Thomas Edison. And who's Louis Latimer? He's a black man. We'll show you pictures in a minute, but we just want to read the story so you guys can understand where we're going. It says here, one excellent example of the African-American achievers in science is Louis Latimer. His father, George, was an ex-slave. So I want you to remember this, because when we read the official histories, you see that Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell, who discovered the phone, hired Lewis Latimer. And we want to ask them a question. I want you to think about this. What are they doing hiring a black man during an era in which there were no civil rights? What did you need him for? They are inferior beings with inferior intelligence, but you hired them. Thomas Edison hired him, and so did Alexander Graham Bell. What are you doing? Okay, let's keep on reading. Okay, it says here, his father George was an ex-slave who escaped slavery in 1831 and fled to Boston. 11 years later, in 1842, his former owner appeared and tried to take him back into slavery, but many members of the Boston community rallied on his behalf and raised the $400 necessary to buy his freedom. So, his father was an ex-slave. So that means he was the son of a slave. Black abolitionists and whites such as Floyd Garrison raised the moral consciousness of the public. The son, Lewis Latimer, settled in Chelsea near Boston, but when the Civil War broke out, he joined the Navy. His brother fought in the Army after the war. Lewis Latimer became a draftsman and handled the telephone patent for Alexander Graham Bell. Why would you let a black man in the civil rights era, before the civil rights rather, a son of a slave, file your own patent for you when you have superior intelligence? I want you to ask yourself that question. Why? Because all these discoveries were made by no albino white man. They don't have the genetics for it, as we've shown you scientifically. It was all done by black people. Every single discovery in this world that you can think of, all done by black people. And this is how the white albino supremacists in the Vatican handle stuff. Let's keep on reading. Said his first patent was granted in 1873. What are they doing granting a patent to a black man in 1873? Can someone answer that question for me? Let's keep on reading. When he invented a water closet for railroad cars. He invented a water closet for railroad cars. In 1880, he worked for the inventor and industrialist Hiram Maxim in the U.S. Electric Lighting Company. Really? What are you doing hiring a black man? Before the civil rights, black were prejudiced against. They were considered to be animals, to be hired and working in a company with lighting, discovering lighting. Goodness gracious. Let's keep on reading. It says, he worked for the inventor industrialist Hiram Maxim in the U.S. Electric Lighting Company, and the following year he received patents for an improved carbon filament. Oh my goodness. So that means the light bulbs we're using came from this dude. He received a patent. Why would you give a black man a patent in the 1800s? What did you need him for? He's inferior. Why would you hire him? Goodness gracious. Let's keep on reading. It says, which eventually aided Thomas Edison. It aided Thomas Edison in his work on the incandescent light bulb. Wow. Latimer joined Edison and used his expertise to write one of the first books on lighting cities in America and England. So it was Latimer who discovered both the direct current and the alternating current, which they now attribute to Nikola Tesla. Stick around. Let's keep on reading. He also helped Edison win several crucial legal battles over patents. Later, he became a founding member of the Edison Pioneers. Why haven't we heard of him? So this technically means that this guy started the Edison Company. He was the Edison pioneer. Let's go over and take a look at the picture of this black man now. And here is Lewis Latimer right here. But we've never heard of him in history. He worked for Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison hired Nikola Tesla. Well, how come we hear about Nikola Tesla and not Lewis Latimer? You could pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link, and we'll even read that in the Wikipedia page of Lewis Latimer, the official histories of the white, albino, anybody with straight hair, supremacists in the Vatican who lead and run our world and keep us from believing that we are all black and make us still believe in this nonsense of white supremacy intelligence, which doesn't exist. It is black intelligence. Let's keep on reading. It says here, Louis Latimer is, let me try to make this a little bit larger so you guys can see clearly. It says here, Louis Latimer is considered one of the 10 most important black inventors of all time, not only for the sheer number of inventions created and patents secured, but also for the magnitude of importance for his most famous discovery. He gave us what we now enjoy in electricity and the light bulb, but it's accredited to Nikola Tesla. Now let's go over to his official page now on Wikipedia and read what this guy's put into place. Because I want you to study, when you're trying to catch somebody in a lie, like I've always told you, you need to study the timeline. Time never lies. A woman who says she's 30 years old but is actually 60 years old is going to show. Time doesn't lie. So this is the official page of Louis Latimer. You could just get in your search engine and just type out Louis Howard Latimer, and you find out who he is. But let's read some of these portions right here because I'm not going to read everything. It says, in 1874, he co-patented with Charles Brown an improved toilet system for railroad cars called the water closet for railroad cars, U.S. Patent 147363 in 1874. What are they allowing? Why would they give a black man a patent in 1874? Because they couldn't do it. They couldn't think. They couldn't even reason or come to the terms with what this man was discovering. And this is what goes on till today. The black people in the white supremacist organization are making it successful because they like it. White supremacy couldn't have been successful on its own. 4/5 of the world population is black. How can 1/5 be more superior if the 4/5 are not supporting it? Does it make sense? Because this is something that is believed everywhere you go. Even a black man will tell you a white man does things better. Right? Let's keep on reading. It says in 1874, he co-patented with Charles W. Brown an improved toilet system for railroad cars called the water closet for railroad cars. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell employed Latimer, then a draftsman at Bell's patent law firm, to draft the necessary drawings required to receive a patent for Bell's telephone. So he's the one who discovered, if you draft a patent for a telephone, let me just put this in very simple words, okay? It's your own company and you're trying, all right, to draft a patent for it. Would you let somebody else do it? A black man? Somebody that you are against, you being white? Would you trust him that much? It's common sense, people. You just have to think about it. In 1876, it says Alexander Graham Bell employed Latimer, then a draftsman at Bell's patent law firm, to draft the necessary drawings required to receive a patent for Bell's telephone. So this guy discovered the telephone for us, Louis Latimer, and yet he's not known anywhere. We've never heard of him. And how about Thomas Edison? Let's read that too. It says Louis was hired as an assistant manager and draftsman for the U.S. Electric Lighting Company, a company owned by Hiram Maxim, a rival of Thomas A. Edison. But we already read in the other histories that he was the pioneer of the Edison Company. Latimer received a patent on July 17, 1880. Look at the year, 1882. 1882, you let a black man, all right, with no civil rights, file a patent and get it, right? Does that make sense to you? Why would you need it? Why would you let a man do that? Because you couldn't do it yourself. Let's keep on reading. It says Latimer received a patent on January 17, 1880 for the process of manufacturing carbons, an improved method for the production of carbon filaments used in light bulbs. The Edison Electric Light Company in New York City hired Latimer in 1884. They hired him 2 years later after he filed his patent. That's why he was the pioneers of the Edison Company. But we've never heard of him. Let's keep on reading. As a draftsman and an expert witness in patent litigation on electric lights, Latimer is credited with an improved process for creating a carbon filament at this time, which was an improvement on Thomas Edison's original paper filament. It's all false. All false. Because this guy, in Louis Latimer, this black man, is Nikola Tesla. How do you know this? Look at the year. He was born 1848, September 1848. Let's look at Nikola Tesla year when he was born. What year was Nikola Tesla born? 10 July 1856. 8 years later. You see how this will tell you lies? And what year did Nikola Tesla die? Look at this. 7 January 1943. What year did Louis Latimer die? December 11, 1928. At what age? Age 80. What age was Nikola Tesla? 86. Is that a coincidence? In what city or what state did Nikola Tesla die? New York City, right? New York. In what state did Latimer die? New York City, Flushing, Queens. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence? This is the original inventor. Nikola Tesla is a fabrication. Just like the white albino elites around the world keep on fabricating history for us to believe in the myth of white supremacy and its intelligence, which doesn't exist. So what's the end of the story that you get here? White supremacy intelligence doesn't exist. People who have straight hair, all right, don't have the genetics to be able to think up to that level to discover things. It's not possible because it can't be done. You can't build a skyscraper on a bungalow foundation. It won't work. It's going to crumble. A single core processor cannot function like a quad core processor. It's not built that way. So everything shows you that black people are not just the superior intelligence. They have wisdom, and wisdom is superior to intelligence, or intelligence rather. Anybody with straight hair has to be taught. They don't have the mechanics, the melanin to function, to be able to discover things on their own. So that's why simple things as trends, culture, dances, it's all accredited to black people because they are the discoverers. They are built to be discoverers, to know things without being taught, and everybody else has to be taught how to. That is the end of story. Black people have wisdom. Black people with woolly hair have wisdom. They have superior intelligence, and everybody else just has intelligence and not wisdom because they have to be taught. So with that, we come to the end of this part, and we're going to shut down the video right here and continue the next part of the video. Sorry for it being a long video, but the truth always has to be told. So let's go. So we want to thank you so much for sticking around with us through the myth of whiteness, part number 16 underscore intelligence, which we made you guys understand that it's biologically and scientifically impossible for anybody who has straight hair, who's an albino or goes by the name white, to be of more superior intelligence than black people who naturally have wisdom because of the melanin content, which allows them to have a greater number of impulses firing such that they are able to do things better, be able to have a lot of muscle coordination, a lot of other things that determines and is also responsible for being intelligent. So through all the years that we've been told that black people are naturally the inferior people of intelligence has actually been false, because the intelligence that the white supremacists are using, the great grandsons of Genghis Khan, to run our world, all the technological marvels and inventions are actually inventions of black people. But now we just have a white face, or let's say an albanic face on top. So the best way we could put it is this: the back office is black people working with intelligence, producing the intelligence. The front office is just the masquerade that you see in terms of the albino elite scientists saying that they're the ones who discovered everything. And like we've always said, nothing has ever been discovered in this world. Everything has always existed. So whenever you hear that someone say they discovered something, is actually false. Everything has always been there. So what you have are just upgrades. So for example, if a black person dances today, dancing didn't just get invented. Dancing has always been around. So it's just going to be a different kind of dance, but it's a dance nevertheless. So that's the best way I can put it. So with that said, let's get into a feature presentation today, which happens to be Elton John. We're going to be taking a look at Elton John. And for the first time, if it's a first time on our channel, because normally this is a different kind of video, we usually like welcoming the first time subscribers first and making you understand that this channel is not ideally welcome for first time subscribers, that you should have been on Tricks of the S Trade before you got on Tricks of the S Trade too. So, but if it's your first time, nevertheless, because a lot of people really don't follow instructions, we want to walk you through to understand this section of the video, because this has to do with identifying the gender of someone who's very, very popular by the name of Elton John. So with that said, I'm going to point you to a document. I'm going to point you to the primer video, which you must watch first to understand what our channel is all about, if it's your first time on our channel. Otherwise, a lot of the things that you're hearing rather, and seeing might be a little bit more confusing for you. You're going to have more unanswered questions if you do not go along the proper route of watching our videos. So if it's your first time on our channel, I want to point you to um, a primer video first, and then after that we come back and continue talking, because we're in the transvestigation of Elton John. So if it's your first time on our channel, there is a playlist on the channel that you have to watch. The playlist is called Primer. All right, so get on Tricks of the S Trade or Tricks on the S Trade 2 and watch the Primer video. Look for the playlist for it. The playlist has 4 other videos inside that, which is very, very pertinent, that you should watch if you're trying to understand what our video is all about. So if you have Primer 2, you have the Theory of Surrogates and the Theory of Surrogates 2. We recommend that you watch these videos if it's your first time on our channel. There's also a link in the description section of every video that we have on this channel. I'm hovering my mouse right over it. This link takes you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. It's very, very important that you download this document in a hard copy format and save it, so you can also transfer it to your kids or whoever else you want to give the document out, because we do recommend that you always have everything in a hard copy format, because a lot of the histories that we are being taught is digitally told to us, so it can always be changed. So that's why they're sending everybody onto the internet, or what they now call the cloud, so that everything can be changed at the drop of a hat. But if you have something in a hard copy format, it's always better, because it's going to be much more stable against changes or corruption. So that's why we put a lot of the information that we have which we are talking about in most of these videos. And people, I just want to let you guys understand something. What we're talking about in every video on this particular channel is just 5% of the whole entire story. The book gives you a much more comprehensive view. And with a book, you have a hard copy format in which you can always have a reference to, and you can leave on to your future generations and children to read. But stuff in videos like we're watching now digitally can get corrupted because there's one thing you guys have to understand. Everything that's digitally made is stored on a media, and all media can get corrupted. And such medias as flash drives and hard drives, they have what they call read cycles. So they are made according to a number of read cycles. Read cycle means the number of times that you can retrieve data or store data on that particular media. So with hard drives, they can have up to maybe 2 million or 2 billion read cycles. That means after 2 billion cycles of you reading, retrieving information, and storing information, that hard drive will crash. And most cases, the great grandsons of Genghis Khan actually put some sort of crashing software onto the hard drive intentionally, because this is all planned, all right, to make sure that most information that people have can be controlled. So the only way you can have valuable information, as we've seen throughout history, is in a hard copy format. So that's why people like the Egyptians left carvings of pictures of who they are, statues all around the world. That's why Yahweh was writing down stuff on a tablet of stone, all right, and gave it to Moses, and also told Moses that he should tell the Israelites, the black woolly haired Israelites, that they should write everything that he said on a tablet. They should write it into their palms and carrying it around, or write it in such a way that they can carry it as a necklace, so that it will always be in remembrance. The reason why a lot of histories, we are so confused about a lot of histories, is because a lot of people didn't put things down in writing. So you have to learn how to put things down rather in writing, for yourself and for your future generations, if you do not want them to get lost and be whitewashed and be controlled by the devil so they don't know anything. So with everything that you're watching on this channel, all right, we've put it in a book for you. So we advise that you save money towards the book and you get it. And as you're watching this particular screen right now with this document called The Male versus Female Visual Differences, we also advise that you download it and print it out in a hard copy format for yourself. Okay, all right, so let's get into this, because we're in the transvestigation of Elton John, and this video has been running too long, so we want to cut it short. So what you're looking at the screen right now is a visual difference between a man and a woman. You see a woman to the left of a screen and a man to the right of a screen. Now the female, there's one thing you guys have to understand about how to identify the gender of anybody. Gender is dependent on the skeleton, all right? The skeleton of a woman is designed to carry children, to give birth. The skeleton of a man is not. So that's how from dead remains of human beings you can identify the gender of someone, because the skeleton determines the sex. The secondary rather, is based on the primary. What does that mean? If you're going to build a bungalow, you must have the foundation suitable for a bungalow. Otherwise, if you fit a skyscraper on top of a bungalow, it will not stand. It will crumble. So if you go about identifying gender by the genitals and the secondary male or female characteristics that you see, such as people say, long arms, long torsos, Adonis belts, an Adam's apple, a brow ridge, a strong chin, pointed chin, long arm, long ring index fingers, which is obviously very false, and so many other things, you're going to land at the wrong location in determining that gender. Because you have to understand this. The only difference between a man and a woman, the only difference between the gender, male and female, is that the female skeleton is designed to give birth. That's the only difference between the two genders. One can give birth and the other cannot. So why do you go basing gender on things that don't matter? So this is one thing that you guys always have to remember, please, at all times. So what you're looking right here is a woman to the left of a screen. She has an arch in her back. Now, why does a woman have an arch in her back? A C-shaped back is what a woman has. Why is her back shaped that way? It is because the pelvis of a female is tilted forward. Why is the pelvis of a female tilted forward? Sorry to say, is because the pelvis needs to be in a position such that a baby can stay inside this womb for 9 months of conception without having to come out or drop out of it. Because if the pelvis was straight like a man, the child would not be able to stay in there comfortably. So that's why it's tilted forward. So that tilt causes the back of a female to accommodate the tilt, and therefore it arches, as you can see right here. So a woman's back is shaped like a C, all right, which is an arch. A man's back is straight. There is no arch, as you can see right here, because a man does not give birth. If a man's back wants to arch, it's going to arch outwards into the shape of a D or a P, but it's going to be straight into the pelvis, no arch, as you can see right here with this female to the left of her screen. So always remember that the back of a man is shaped like a D or a P. It's a straight back, straight in the sense that there's a straight back right to the pelvis. There is no arch like a female that you see right here. So remember those two letters. A woman's back is shaped like a C. A man's back is shaped either like a D or a P, because it's a straight back that has no arch into the pelvis. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to scroll forward into the document just to show you how a female's back arches more. As you can see right here is a woman kneeling down. She has that deep C arch in the back because her pelvis is tilted forward. It doesn't matter what size the female comes in, whether she's big, small, tall, whatever you want to call her, there is always going to be an arch in a woman's back. So as you can see right here is a big female to the left of her screen. She has an arch in the back and the pelvis is tilted forward. A smaller female to the right, arch in the back and the pelvis is tilted forward. So size doesn't play a role. It doesn't matter if you're big, tall, or small, the color of your skin, your ethnicity. There's always going to be an arch in a woman's back, because without that you cannot be a woman, because the pelvis needs to be tilted forward so that you can carry children during pregnancy. Does it make sense? So let's go further down just to show you another thing that another common misconception, that if a woman gains a lot of muscle mass, is in the weight room or in the gym training, that her back is going to straighten out. Nothing like that can ever happen. Nothing can change the skeletal structure of anybody once it's been determined at conception. So there is no such thing as maybe a pregnant mom being administered drugs such that the fetus of that woman changes from maybe male to female or female to male, and there's no such thing as androgyny. Once a sperm meets an egg during fertilization, the sex is determined immediately and nothing can change that process. So do not fall into any lies that the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan are going to tell you throughout history, that something can change the person's gender, all right, from male to female or female to male during pregnancy. It can happen. We are born either male and female. There's no such thing as androgyny. That's all false. There's no such thing as hermaphrodites. You only hear and see of hermaphrodites maybe on TV. And you have to understand something. Just because a woman has an enlarged clitoris doesn't make her male. Because a man has a small pineal gland, that's a penis, doesn't make them female. All right? So you guys have to understand this. Nothing can change the skeletal structure. As you can see right here, here's a female with a lot of muscles, weight training, maybe in the gym every single day. She still has an arch in her back. Another female right here, there's still an arch in the back. Muscular female. Nothing can change the skeletal structure once it's been determined at conception. So let's move forward. So one of the most defining aspects of determining gender is the hips. You've probably heard of this song by Shakira, who's actually a dude who said that the hips do not lie. That is actually true. The hips never lie. Everything else can be faked, especially with so many males who are trying to be female. For example, they can have their ribs removed and try to fake an arch. They can have some sort of Brazilian butt lift and body contouring to give a female form of an hourglass figure, but they will always fail at one location in their bodies. That is always the hips. Nothing can change the location of the hips. The hips of a man will always be above his crotch. The hips of a female will always be below the crotch, and nothing can change that location. The hips determines where the torso of the body ends. So for males, the torso of the body ends above the crotch. Why is that so? Because the male genitalia needs to function below body temperature. And for it to function below body temperature, it needs to be outside the body. So since the hips determine where the torso of the body ends, the genitalia is therefore outside the torso of the body. So the hips of a man are above his crotch. Now, the female reproductive organs, everything is inside the body, right? So the hips of a female are going to be below the crotch because everything is inside the torso of the body, since the hips determine where the torso of the body ends. Does that make sense? So the hips are also below the crotch so that a woman can have easy access to childbirth. Without that, a woman's hips would become a problem. So the hips, the location of the hips determines your gender. If it's above, that means you're male. If it's below, it means you're female. And this is all known all around the world because if you notice, if you go into any clothing store or company or wherever you get your clothes from, you find out that there are so many brands of clothes sewn from so many different countries. But for every female clothing, the location of the hips remains the same because females don't have varying degrees or places for their hips. It's always going to be below the crotch. If this was not known, a lot of the clothes that are sewn around the world and brought to so many different countries for females to wear would not fit, because if you had varying degrees for where their hips are, and you sew one cloth and you're trying to fit a woman into a medium, large, or whatever clothing size you have, the clothes would not fit because the location of the hips would be off. So everybody knows this. The Vatican, who's responsible for all the clothing that you wear, know that the location of the female hip is below the crotch. So I'm going to play this short video for you to see that, okay? So in this short video, you can see right here that this is a regular female. When I say regular female here, means that naturally some women will always have maybe their shoulders, some women, not all of them, their shoulders wider than their hips. That doesn't make you male. It's the location of the hip that makes you female. All right? So even if a woman is going to have wider shoulders, the location of her hips will always be below the crotch because that's what makes you woman. So with a natural woman, you find out that with regular females, I'm sorry to say, that means females in which their shoulders, right, are not wider than their hips is what I'm saying. So with regular females, you find out that from underneath your elbows that you start spreading and getting wider because your pelvis is wider than a man's pelvis. Why is it wider? It's wider and longer so that a baby can stay comfortably inside the womb for the 9 months of conception that a baby has to go through. So because of that, the pelvis is wider. Because the pelvis is wider, the pubic arch is also wider. What is the pubic arch? The pubic arch is the space in between your thighs. So that's why for some females, not all of them, depending on the body fat, you find out that a woman will always have space in between her thighs. Her thighs never come together. That's because the pubic arch is wider for females. Because of that wider pubic arch, everything inside the female pelvis is further apart. The hips are further apart, which makes her to have an hourglass figure. And the location of the hips will always be below the crotch. So this female is going to measure this woman's hip. So you see exactly where the tape goes around for you to know where the location of that hip is. As you can see right there, is below the crotch. So with females, females have a very acute Q angle. The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. And the Q angle for females will always start below the crotch. For males, it will start above the crotch because that's where a man's hips are. So I always use this analogy, and I always rather tell people, it's not really an analogy, but as a suggestion. If you have difficulty trying to determine the location of someone's hips or the gender of someone, try to see if you can find a picture of the person from the back. Because once you see a picture of the person from the back, you're going to be able to tell if this is male or female. In most cases, when you see someone walking from the back, you can tell that's a man and that's a woman because of how acute the Q angle shows from the back. With females, the Q angle is going to be slightly above the bum line, but regardless, it's below the crotch from the front. With males, if this was a man, this Q angle, right, would be farther up away from this bum line. So you could tell that's a man. And let me show you an example. I'm going to show you the example I'm going to show is going to be in Iggy Azalea, all right? This is Iggy Azalea right here. Iggy Azalea is regarded to be a female, but Iggy Azalea is not female because you can see right here, this is Iggy Azalea's bum line. And look at where the Q angle is. It's so farther up. Why? Because Iggy Azalea is 100% male and not a woman. That's why this Q angle is so far away from the bum line. So that's always a suggestion. Try to see if you can find pictures of the person from the back, because once you see the person from the back, you're going to be able to tell this is male or either female. So let's continue on with the transvestigation of Elton John so we can wrap up this video. So here is a picture of Elton John. As you can see, Elton John has a very long pelvis because Elton John is 100% female and has been masquerading around as a man for way too long. You can actually see the length of the pelvis right here, how long it starts. It starts from right inside the middle of the torso. With women in general, or females in general, what you'll find out is that the waist of a woman divides the torso of the body in half, as you can see right here in Elton John, or almost half. So that means the woman's ribcage is going to be very small, like you see right here with Elton John. And then from then on, all the way down from below the ribcage will contain the stomach and the female reproductive organ. So that's what makes the pelvis of one very long. As you can see right here, this is how Elton John starts spreading from right underneath the elbows, as we showed you, because these are her elbows. And from then, he starts spreading all the way downwards, all the way downwards. And the Q angle starts right here, which is below the crotch, because Elton John is 100% female. Let's go to another picture. Here's Elton John with some men. I want you guys to take particular notice of what's going on here. Let me see if I can blow this picture up as much as I can. Where is that blow up? It's right here. Okay, sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my mouse. Just pardon me for a bit, okay? So what you do notice right here is Elton John is standing around with some men. But you will notice that all these men's pelvises are very short. You see the distance from here to here? From here to here. But look at Elton John's own here, right here. It travels longer all the way down because Elton John is 100% female with a longer pelvic region. All right, let's go to another picture. Here's Elton John. As you can see, that's a woman standing there. This picture doesn't say much in terms that we can see like the hips, but you can see that's a female form in how it flows because it's not a man. This is a female form flowing in clothes because Elton John is 100% female and not a man. Let's go to another picture of Elton John. This one is not so much clear. Let me see if I can blow this up as much as I can, so you guys can see what I'm talking about right here. And here is Elton John again, all right? You can see that Elton John, as usual, has what we call the curse of the pecs for females. It's not really a curse, it's just a terminology that we use, all right? The terminology means that a woman is unable to develop her pec muscles because as a woman is designed, she's not designed to have a lot of pectoral muscles like males, because the chest of a female is designed to carry mammary glands, breast tissue for milk, instead of muscle mass. Does it make sense? So that's what Elton John is exhibiting right here, because you're unable to see any sort of pec development down here like a normal man should have, because Elton John is 100% female. Even though this picture is very blurry and you guys can't really see that, but when you look, you will tell. But because of all the testosterone and so many androgens that they're feeding, Elton John, she has grown hair to look like a man, but it's not, because Elton John is 100% female. Even with the way she's trying to place her hands on the hips or waist, because this arm location here should be where the male waist is. You can see how absurd it is, because it's too big. It's not tiny, because as a man, you narrow towards your waist. As a female, you narrow towards it, because the waist of a female is above a belly button, and that of males is below the belly button. So with males, they naturally narrow. That means with a man that is fit, you naturally narrow towards your waist, downwards, while a female will narrow like upwards, because her waist is above. So Elton John is trying to find the male waist here, but she can't find it because it's a female pelvis. Let's go to another picture. Here's Elton John, not really clear, but we wanted to show you that the pelvis is still long. Let's see if you can blow this up. It's because it's in black and white, and you can see that the navel is set way too high inside the torso of the body for it to be male, because Elton John is 100% female. Let's go to another picture of Elton John. Here's Elton John sitting down. As you can see right here, this pelvic arch, right, pubic arch right here is way too wide. It forms a V. You can actually see that the way it sits right here shows you that it's a female. The space in between the crotch is way too wide to be male. Males have, when they sit, it forms a V shape because they have a narrow pubic arch. When a woman sits, it forms a U shape because the arch is much more wider for childbirth. And that's what Elton John is exhibiting right here, because Elton John is 100% female and could never be man. All right, let's go. Let's go here, right here, Elton John again. As you can see that she spreads wider because the pelvis is wider. You can see how it curves. No man is going to have this kind of pelvis. It's going to be straight. A man narrows more towards the waist and keeps getting narrower into forming like a V shape from his waist down to his body, while females start forming into an hourglass figure. And this is what Elton John is exhibiting right here, hourglass figure. Now, this particular picture has been modified by the Vatican to hide so many things so that we wouldn't see that Elton John is actually female. Because you can see right here, we can't find the location of Elton John's navel because they've hid it under some sort of hair or whatever they did. But the possible location, if you wanted to judge what the possible location of the navel would be, it would be right around this point right here where I'm pointing, I'm hovering my mouse over. And that would be way too high set inside the torso of the body to be male, because females have a higher navel inside the torso of the body and males have it lower. Does that make sense? All right, let's go to another picture. Here's another picture again. We already explained this. Elton John is trying to find the male waist, but he can't find it. She can't find it because it doesn't exist. It's a female pelvis, and you can see how long the pelvis is. And you can see this Q angle right here is below the crotch. Crotch right here, Q angle starts here, because Elton John is 100% female, been masquerading around as a man for way too long. And we've heard such stories like Elton John is gay and or whatever. That's all trying to hide the fact that it's a woman. That's why they give you such storylines, so you always think towards the fact that it's a man. Make sense? All right, let's go to another picture of Elton John. You can still see that long pelvic region here. And don't worry about the back. The back is not straightened out. It's because we've always talked about the fact that when a woman is doing something that requires her to support the weight of her frame on her body, her back is going to naturally straighten out, but it doesn't mean it's straight. It's just straightening out to support the weight of whatsoever she's doing. And in Elton John's case, she's trying to play the piano right here, and that's what exactly is happening. But we are looking at the pelvis. The length of the pelvis is way too long The distance from this belt all the way down is way too long to be male, sorry, because Elton John is 100% female. The long pelvis here of a female. Let's go to another picture. Elton John again, as you can see, that's a woman right there. See the way it flows? It flows into an hourglass figure like a woman naturally does. See how it flows even from the thighs and from the back? Because Elton John is 100% female and could never be a man. All right, let's go to another picture. I already showed you that picture, so let's move to the next one. Here's Elton John again, the same thing. See how long the pelvis is and see where the Q angle starts? Below the crotch. Because Elton John is 100% female and never a man. And you know, the one thing with people trying to live in the gender that they were not born with is that over time, saying this just, I don't know if you guys can catch this, but I hope you do. All through our lives, what the great-grandsons have specialized in doing is making humanity to hate themselves. So, for example, we are all black people in this world. None of us is white. You only have albinism. That's just that. But albinism has made to be the standard of the beauty of the world, such that black people hate being human, because being human means to have color, and they would rather want to be albinos. If you hate your humanity, all right, you can never ever get to know your creator. Because if the world recognized that we were all black people, it would be easier for us to find out that we were created, and such nonsense as evolution, as the Big Bang Theory and all that would not exist, and all the stupid sciences and mathematics that's trying to prove it so. So the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan, who are led by the devil Satan himself, have made us to be looking at a standard of beauty that is against us. And the funny thing is this: as much as a lot of people are trying to hate their humanity, they still want to be black. Even white folk know that black people are far better in terms of the genetics, of the way they look and how they age, and they want to be like them. White women want to be like black women, but at the same time, they are taught to despise them. Does that make sense? See how the confusion has been thrown onto us in so many ways that we hate our own selves. So the moral of what I'm trying to say is this: as much as you hate yourself and you try to fight against it, you will always find that you're always at the losing end of that battle, because nobody can fight themselves and win. So here, what you do notice is this: when a transgender tries to be, a different sex, especially for those who have grown up and have made that adult decision to say, okay, I don't think I was born a man, I should try to be a woman. What you find out is that your body always fights to be in the sex and gender that you were born with. And as you get older, you start losing that battle, because it starts taking over, showing you more and more that you're male. So in Elton John's case here, even though we can assume that Elton John was taken as a child, because that's what the Vatican does, the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan, rather, sorry to say, who lead through the Vatican, would have taken Elton John as a child. But as he's getting older today, as Elton John is getting older, Elton John is looking weirder and weirder. Why? Because her body is trying to stay in the female form that she was born with, and not the male form which they've been feeding it with too much hormones, to try to make it look male. So fighting a fight against your own self is a losing battle. We're all black. Fighting against it is a losing battle, because you will remain black. And when you die, even you're an albino, you're still going to turn black, because you were a black person. Let's go to another picture of Elton John. So here's Elton John with the so-called man that say he's his gay partner. This is just trying to see how twisted this whole thing is. This is a female right here, and this is a man, but we're told it's gay. They're homosexual. So the idea of giving us homosexuals every day in front of our TVs, most of them may not even be what you think they are. But because the ideology is coming from Satan himself, through the great grandsons of Genghis Khan via the Vatican, we've been told all these crazy lies. All right, let's go to another picture. Here is that same picture, but we want to show you very clearly that the Q angle, right, as you can see right here, is very acute, too acute to be male, because Elton John is 100% female. And you can see the long pelvis right here. The pelvis of a female all the way down, way too long, not short enough to be male, because Elton John is 100% female and was never a man in the first place. Let's go to another picture of Elton John, still trying to do the same thing to find the male waist, but he cannot because it's 100% female and he can't find it. So that's why the hand rest looks awkward. That's a female pelvis and not a male waist. Let's go to another picture of Elton John. Here we're still showing the cute Q angle is below the crotch, because Elton John is 100% female. Another one right here, as you can see, the long pelvis still shows the cute Q angle is below the crotch, because Elton John is 100% female and was never a man in the first place. Here's another picture of Elton John, still showing you that long pelvic region. See how long that is? Only females have this kind of long pelvic region. It's the same with this woman now right here. You can see how long the pelvis is all the way down, because it's a female pelvic region. The same with Elton John, because Elton John is 100% female, just like these two women that she's with. I think this happens. I think the one on the right looks like Diana Ross, but I'm not sure, it could be. But all the same, that's why I'm saying you can never ever trust the people you see on TV. They are all created by the Vatican to be on that TV set to sell you lies, so that you can keep on believing in the myth of white supremacy and its fabricated intelligence when it doesn't exist. If the whole idea of white intelligence is actually black intelligence plagiarized. That's it. Let's go to another picture right here. Here's another picture. As you can see that Elton John right here has an arch in the back, consistent with being a woman. Arch in the back, shaped like a C. See that? C shape, because Elton John is 100% female, with the long pelvic region of a female, because she is one. Let's go to another picture of Elton John. Here's Elton John with Lady Gaga and Kelly Osbourne. And they've been trying to feed you lies that this is a man. Lady Gaga, Kelly Osbourne. You can't trust any of these people. Even though they are both female, all three people here are female. This is not a man. Elton John. See, she looks weirder and weirder as she gets older, because the body is consistently trying to fight to stay in the gender that we are born with. Even so with everybody in this world who consider themselves not black, your body is still going to be fighting to be black. Isn't it wonderful? It's a losing fight. Okay, come on, let's go to another picture. Here's Elton John from the back. As you can still see, this acute Q angle is below the crotch, slightly below the bum line, right? Sorry, slightly above the bum line, but below the crotch from the front, because Elton John is 100% female. All right, that's all we had on today's particular video. I hope you guys learned something about the myth of whiteness, part number 16, talking about intelligence, so that you can understand that these crazy stories that they've created to make black people inferior when they're actually superior is all false. Do not try to be something you're not. Try to be who you are and who you were created in the image of Yahweh himself. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. I hope you guys learned something. If you did, continue to stay tuned. And remember, please, it's very, very important that you get our book for your sustenance and for your future generations, so you can have real history in the palm of your hands. And with that, we leave you with these words. Always and always look with your eyes, but see with your brain. And I'll talk with you guys later. Bye.